Here is the complete narration script for Flavor Vault. Survey after survey shows that professional chefs, people who spend 10 to 12 hours a day in high-pressure commercial kitchens, cook at home less than 4 times per week. That number sounds almost unbelievable until you understand exactly why, and more importantly, until you see what they actually make when they do cook. Because the meals they prepare at home look almost nothing like the food they serve in restaurants. And that gap tells you everything you need to know about cooking well. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to find out how the most skilled cooks on the planet actually feed themselves when there are no cameras, no critics, no tickets coming in from the pass. You will discover the specific ingredients they stockpile, the shortcuts they are not embarrassed to use, and the single counterintuitive habit that separates genuinely great home cooking from everything else. One of those habits will completely change how you think about what belongs in your kitchen. Stay with this until the end, because the last insight is the one most people never hear. To understand how professional chefs cook at home, you first have to understand what their professional lives actually look like. The modern restaurant kitchen is built around systems. Every component of every dish is broken down into a task, and that task is assigned to a specific station. The sauce is made Monday. The stocks are pulled from a walk-in refrigerator that holds thousands of dollars worth of prepared ingredients. Nothing happens from scratch in real time during service. A chef working a busy Saturday dinner might plate 200 dishes, but they did not cook most of those components that night. The system cooked them over the course of a week. This is the foundation of everything. Professional chefs are not actually cooking the way most people imagine. They are assembling, finishing, and executing with speed against a backdrop of days of preparation. When those same chefs walk into their home kitchens on a Tuesday evening with tired feet and a foggy head, they are not reaching for a complex recipe. They are reaching for a system. A smaller, simpler version of exactly what they do at work. That instinct, building a system instead of following a recipe, is the first and most important thing to take from how professionals cook at home. So what does that system actually look like in a real home kitchen? Almost universally, professional chefs keep what the culinary world calls a larder. This is not a trendy pantry aesthetic you see on social media. This is a deliberate, curated collection of high-impact ingredients that can transform simple food instantly. Extra virgin olive oil from a single origin they have tested and trust. Several varieties of good vinegar, sherry, red wine, champagne. Fish sauce, which appears in the home kitchens of chefs across almost every culinary background, not just those who cook Asian cuisine. Whole spices they toast and grind themselves. Dried chiles of at least 3 different heat levels. Preserved lemons. Capers. A block of aged Parmesan they grate fresh. Anchovy paste in a tube. Good canned tomatoes, San Marzano, always San Marzano. These are not luxury ingredients for most of them. These are tools. The same way a surgeon does not perform an operation with cheap instruments, a chef does not try to produce great flavor with flavorless building blocks. The quality of these foundational pantry items is where professional home cooking begins and where most amateur home cooking falls short. But here's what nobody talks about. Professional chefs use store-bought ingredients constantly and without any shame whatsoever. Rotisserie chicken appears in their shopping carts regularly. Pre-made stock from a carton, yes, even that, gets used on weeknights when time is short. High-quality frozen vegetables, particularly peas and corn, are considered perfectly acceptable. Several Michelin-starred chefs have openly admitted that their go-to weeknight meal involves a rotisserie chicken pulled apart by hand, tossed with whatever vegetables are at peak ripeness, finished with a high-quality vinaigrette they make in 30 seconds. The skill is not in making everything from scratch. The skill is in knowing how to take good shortcut ingredients and transform them with technique and seasoning. That word, seasoning, deserves its own conversation entirely, because this is where the single largest gap exists between professional and amateur cooking. Studies of home cooking habits consistently show that the #1 correctable error home cooks make is under-seasoning, and specifically under-salting, food. Professional chefs season at every stage of cooking. When the onions go into the pan, they get salt. When the liquid goes in, it gets salt. When the dish is nearly finished, it gets tasted and adjusted. When it is plated, it sometimes gets a final pinch of flaky finishing salt. This is not excess. This is the actual technique. Salt does not just make food salty. It suppresses bitterness, enhances sweetness, and carries aroma compounds to your nose more efficiently. Properly salted food tastes more like itself. The second seasoning element professionals rely on at home is acid. A squeeze of lemon, a splash of vinegar, a spoonful of something pickled, these are not garnish decisions. They are structural. Acid brightens every flavor it touches. It cuts through fat and richness and makes heavy food feel lighter and more vibrant. Most home cooks never add acid. Most professional chefs never skip it. Now let us go deeper into the actual cooking habits and the specific techniques that define how chefs operate at home. The first one is what culinary professionals call mise en place, which translates from French as everything in its place. Before any cooking begins, every ingredient is prepped, measured, and ready to go. This is not a perfectionist habit. It is a practical one. When your onions are already diced and your garlic is already minced and your spices are already measured into a small bowl, cooking becomes fluid and controlled. The number one cause of burned garlic and overcooked proteins in home kitchens is distraction during the cooking process because something is not yet ready. Mise en place eliminates that entirely. Professional chefs also apply something called high heat confidence. Home cooks are often afraid of their stoves. They turn burners to medium when the recipe says high. They crowd the pan because they do not want to cook in batches. The result is steamed food instead of seared food, and steamed food lacks the caramelization and crust that create depth of flavor. Chefs at home use screaming hot pans for proteins. They dry their meat completely before it hits the fat. They wait for the visual cue, smoke from the oil, sound of aggressive sizzling, before adding anything. And then they do not touch it. They let the pan do its work. Here is another pattern that appears constantly in chef home kitchens. They cook with the residual heat in the pan far more than the average home cook does. Vegetables get added after the protein is pulled and the pan is removed from direct heat. The fond, those caramelized brown bits stuck to the bottom of the pan, gets deglazed with wine or stock and becomes a sauce in less than 2 minutes. Nothing in a professional kitchen gets wasted, and that philosophy carries directly into the home. The third deeply ingrained habit is tasting constantly and adjusting without ego. Most home cooks taste only at the end. Professionals taste at every transition point. They adjust seasoning, acid, fat, and heat levels continuously throughout the cooking process. This is not overthinking. It is exactly how you cook food that tastes alive rather than flat. What does all of this actually mean for the average person watching this video? It means that cooking like a professional at home has very little to do with complicated techniques or expensive equipment. It has almost everything to do with mindset. Building a reliable pantry of high-impact ingredients. Choosing quality shortcuts without guilt. Seasoning aggressively and adding acid at the end. Using high heat with confidence. Prepping before you cook. Tasting and adjusting throughout. These are not secrets. They are habits, and habits can be built starting with your next meal. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Flavor Vault for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.